name is George Lucas. I created Star Wars and the Clone Wars, and I sold a franchise to Disney. Still not sure why I did that. Introducing you to this podcast on the internet, which I didn't create with computers. It's about the movie Venom 2, which I'm most assuredly is created with computers. So introducing today, we have Kaiju Noir, Ace, and some guy called Random. Excuse me, I have to get back to my race car bed and watch some more Star Wars, which I made with computers.
Thank you very much, George. Your check will be in the mail.
Oh, good. I could buy some more action figures and make some more Star Wars with computers.
Yeah, I'm gonna have that zebra. I'm gonna eat that zebra later for dinner.
It's like poetry.
I'm gonna make sure he uses the force.
I don't like Disney. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Hello, people of the internet. You're probably wondering. Hello, people of the internet. You're probably wondering why we are introducing this trailer discussion for Venom 2 with George Lucas, but I'm still wondering.
And your answer is
because weird.
You don't want to know.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know either, but either answer works just as well. So, as George Lucas wonderfully put, I am Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir, here with my amazing friends, here to do another trailer discussion. This time,
I see what you did there. Very good. Although I'm more spectacular and unlimited, but there we go.
So we are here today to do another trailer discussion, this time for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Here with me today are two of the biggest Spidey fans I know, one being someone you've seen on the channel before. He is an aspiring filmmaker, writer of the book League of Heroes Crucified, and the voice of Crow in Brands and Films MST3K fan series, Ace Marrok.
Hello, everyone. How's it going? And it's Marrok, you pleb.
I apologize, Ace. I
appreciate the use of the word pleb.
And my other web-slinging ally is a man whose work I have followed for many, many years, someone who I've looked up to and am proud to have on the channel for the first time. Give it up for sprite artist Random.
I am indeed an armless, legless, faceless thing rolling down the street. But the difference is, I'm more of a martini in the wind.
So, yeah, we're here to talk about...
I can't be a turn because I don't work for Marvel.
And speaking of Marvel, yes, we're talking about a a movie based on a Marvel comic that isn't made by Marvel themselves, but rather Sony, as a result of the
perish the force.
Yeah, as a result of the ridiculous business politics that is the Disney Sony debacle between the Spider-Man involving the Spider-Man property. And I guess that's the
worst marriage in Hollywood history.
And I guess that is a good place.
Because one is an evil, ruthless, tyrannical corporation that only cares about itself and wants world domination, and the other one is Disney.
Very true. Although for some people, they'd say they might not see the difference. It's like that one meme. It's like they're both the same company. It's the same picture.
I don't see the difference. The other one is that Sony's basically Diet Disney.
It's like Disney, but less successful.
Exactly.
So given their financial woes, take the T out of Diet, and you've got a proper response.
Oof.
Oh.
So, that's a good place to start for this discussion. It's just how the hell we got to this point. And, so for the longest time, back in the 90s, I believe, it was the late 90s, where Marvel was in a very bad state. They were about to go bankrupt, so they sold the movie rights to a lot of their properties, and Sony got Spider-Man. And so, after a couple of movies that Sony produced and other companies like Fox produced, Disney decided to say, Marvel decided to say, hey, let's make our own movies with blackjack and hookers, and thus started the MCU. And meanwhile, they've been trying to after they got bought by Disney and Marvel have been slowly trying to reacquire all of the movie rights to all their characters that they sold back in the 90s, the sole exception now being Spider-Man. And so now there's like this very tentative, shaky relationship that Sony and Disney have that allows Spider-Man to be used by both companies, kind of, sort of, maybe. Where we have the
if you twitch
yes.
if you twitch hard enough, like it looks like that.
In fact, like in the lead up to the first Venom movie, what's her name? Amy Pascal was trying to convince everyone that maybe Venom is in the MCU with Kevin Feige going, no.
I take everything she says at face value.
Right. So how do either of you feel so far about the state of both companies and their approach to the Spider-Man property? Ace, I'll let you go first.
Ooh, all right. Well, it's kind of really hard to go back to when it comes to Spider-Man especially. But in the beginning, I can say that when it comes to when they brought on Sam Raimi to direct, the first couple of films, I feel as though that they nailed down the comic book look of the series, and they really were great in giving a nice, colorful, and very, very, I think the word, a very light, lively world to it. The problem I've always felt with the Raimi films is that they've always had a big problem with pathos, and I personally think the biggest issue is when it comes to the writers of those films and the fact of Raimi's style. It works visually for Spider-Man, not so much narratively. But I would still call each of those films like entertaining in their own sort of ways, even if I'm not the biggest fan of the Raimi trilogy as a whole. And then we come to the Mark Webb films, which I feel like narratively were more in tune with what I wanted out of Spider-Man. They felt much more loyal to the tone of that series. The problem is, well, how Sony handled the whole situation, and that because of how the MCU was going about it, they feel like they had to make it more like them and just set up sequels after sequels after sequels, which without really any hard or effort put into it, just about to make money. And of course, as we all know how badly that went for when it comes to Amazing Spider-Man 2. Ugh, that's a train wreck. But then we come to when Marvel decided to go into the game and bring Spidey in for the MCU after the whole deal with where they would make where Sony would make money off the profit of those films, but Disney would get all the credit for basically creating the films. And well, if you thought Amazing Spider-Man 2 was an abyss, well, I just say for me, like, do you want me to sum up each of the films? Here's how I sum up each of the movies. There's Spider-Man Home Wrecking, there's Spider-Man Far From Good, and then there's the new one, which is Spider-Man No Way This Will Be Good. And that pretty much sums up my thoughts on that.
How about Spider-Man No Way Out?
Or go home, Spider-Man, you're drunk.
Go home, Spider-Man. You're still with the wrong company.
Or the joke I had in mind was when the deal fell apart, I changed it to Spider-Man Homeless.
It's just like that scene from SpongeBob. I bet your contract, and I lost.
And it's gone.
And then I guess the last Spider-Man movie that technically came out, not before we go into Venom. What were your thoughts on Into the Spider-Verse, Ace?
Oh, I loved it. It's I felt like that's when Sony finally realized, wait a minute, it's not about making a product, it's about making a story. And then that's where we got into the Spider-Verse.
Hey, wait a minute. What if we made a movie, with a story and
my
characters?
God, like it's such a foreign concept, but we can do this shit.
What if we actually got people who tried and knew what they were doing?
Exactly. Yeah. That we can make money off of this.
Like that Sam fellow.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, next door,
boys.
Right. So I guess now on to you, James. So what are your personal feelings towards like Spider-Man's like cinematic career from like 2002 to the present day?
I've got this covered.
All right, here we go.
I mean, not to sort of repeat everything that Ace just said, but essentially, like it was, and as well as you, Andres, it's like, the deal was Sony had exclusive rights to the films for a longest time, and also an extension, they also had a hand in the cartoons, which is, Spectacular Spider-Man was one of the best shows they ever made. I personally enjoyed it. The films, I'm a bit of a nerd or a geek when it comes to King Toby, which I think Tobey Maguire is still the best Spider-Man portrayal ever. He nails the aspect of Peter Parker. He's, the awkward, bumbling teenage, Mary Jane, I'm Spider-Man. Pizza time. I kind of like that awkwardy, unsure of himself. I mean, the third film, we'll get to that in a minute. I still say Spider-Man 1 and 2 are the best Spider-Man films ever made. Like, I love Spider-Man 2 especially. Like, whenever I'm in a bad mood, I just throw that film on and it's great. I mean, the third film, I won't lie, I didn't like it when it first came out, but I've mellowed to it over time. It's not groundbreaking, but it's kind of like Batman and Robin. It knows what it is. But it also, I think Spider-Man 3 was the beginning of Sony's continued problem with Spider-Man as a property. The old, too many hands on the product or too many chefs in the kitchen. Because if Sam Raimi was left to his own devices, it would have just been Spider-Man versus Sandman. Then the studio got involved and said, no, you got to throw in Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin. And then, of course, Avi Arad, who just can't leave anything alone, just said, oh, no, Venom's got to be in there too. And then suddenly you had a bloated film with too many villains, not enough focus. And if there was ever anything that needed a Snyder cut, it's probably Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, potentially.
And then the series fell apart. Tobey Maguire left, Kirsten Dunst left, Sam Raimi left, and then they said, all right, fine, we'll just, rather than just let the property sit for a little bit until Sony had an idea of what they were doing, Amy Pascal finished her 17th glass of Smirnoff and said, let's make a Spider-Man reboot based on Twilight.
Ooh,
I'm not joking with that. She said it was based on Twilight.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember the initial announcement.
I stared at that, and I said to myself, what paint have you been huffing? But then remembered it's Amy Pascal. So, I mean, Amazing 1, I see the potential, and I can see what they were going for on more ground. I mean, I don't buy the Batman comparison at first. I mean, when I first heard it was a more darker, gritty Spider-Man, I got the Batman worries that it was going to be like the Nolan-verse, but for what it was worth, it was all right. I liked the first Mark Webb film. But the second film, I don't think I've ever laughed so hard. I'm going to share a funny joke with you all about that film.
All right.
I reduced the film to a Simpsons joke. I mean, I would say spoiler alert, but it's been how many years since that film's been out?
Right, yeah.
It's the scene when Gwen Stacy died. I watched the film with my brother, his friend, and his brother, and I reduced the audience to tears with one simple remark. It's the bit where Gwen Stacy dies and her neck snaps. I turned to my brother's friend's brother. I said to him, "It's just a little airborne. It's still good." She's dead.
Okay, I'll be honest. I was kind of hoping you were gonna say the scene when Homer's beating up was beating up Krusty, and the kid goes, "Stop! He's already dead."
I like my jokes dark as possible. Just a little airborne. but in all seriousness, the problem with that film, it's kind of the analogy I always go with is that Fox and Sony were presented with the juggernaut that is the MCU. And the pair of them had two options. You could straighten up. I mean, the point is, they both brought out a bad film, which was, arguably Spider-Man 3 and X-Men Origins Wolverine. And the two options you had was straighten up, fly right, fix the franchise, and go forward. Or you can shit the bed. Guess which one Sony chose?
Yeah, hindsight can certainly show us.
I still think Fox should not have sold out to Disney because Dark Phoenix notwithstanding, what they were doing with the X-Men franchise was great. I mean, I love Logan. I'm one of the few people that liked Apocalypse. First Class was brilliant. Days of Future Past is a guilty pleasure. But the point is, Sony looked at the MCU and said, I want that. Was not prepared to put the work in.
I'll just say this, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I can currently hear Inshoma screaming in the background as we're talking.
Oh yeah. And Shoma, he's like, just to let you know, he's like a huge X-Men fan, but he doesn't like the majority of the X-Men movies.
Fair enough. I'm not one to judge. I mean,
he prefers he just doesn't like how the X-Men movies tend to repeat a lot of the same stuff over and over again instead of delving into the weird and wild stuff of the comics.
No, I fully get them. I mean, my biggest complaint with the X-Men films is they're all about Wolverine.
Yeah, and that's another thing.
Like,
also.
even when he's not supposed to be there, he just shows up for some reason.
Right?
Yeah. Like that scene in First Class. Fuck off.
Oh, obviously they can't see this in the chat, but I'm going to share a funny image with the pair of them that sums up my thoughts on that scene.
All right.
But getting back to Amazing 2, the problem with that film is it's kind of ironic that the same writer repeated that mistake with Universal's Dark Universe.
Oh,
they shoved so
really?
much shit into one film. Because for the record, as we said, that I am a huge fan of Spider-Man. I love the character, but even I would be the first to tell you he cannot support a cinematic universe by himself.
Right.
We're going to have a Sinister Six film, we're going to have this film, we're going to have that film, and it's like, no, you're not.
Right, I remember there was like a couple years back, before the world went to shit, there was like an article with all these, like, Sony announced all these plans for like a movie for this character and this character and this character. I'm like, who the fuck are half of these people?
Yeah, why the talk of the Morbius film has gone so quiet.
Right, that's so crazy. I was just talking talking about this to you, Random, that like I completely forgot that the Morbius movie was even happening for like the last year or so. After that last trailer came out, it went silent.
It's largely why Silver Sable's in the Spider-Man PS4 game. It was just a shameless promotion for our upcoming film at the time.
Right, because it was like, there kept being like rumors whether there might be a Silver Sable movie or a Black Cat movie or a Black Cat and Silver Sable movie. And it's like, it is happening, it's not happening, it is, it isn't. And they were talking about like a Craven movie. It's like, how is that going to work?
It's just like, the problem of it is, they wanted to have like the Sinister Six Avengers payoff. The reason why the X-Men didn't need that kind of payoff or build-up, because the X-Men were fucking huge in the 90s thanks to the cartoon, the arcade game from Konami, and all this other shit. Whereas, like, at that point, when the first X-Men film came out, if you didn't know who the X-Men were, like, what planet were you living on?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Avengers, they had to set these characters up because nobody knew who Iron Man was. They may have had a rough idea who, Captain America or Hulk were, but Thor? Who knew who Thor was?
Mm-hmm.
The problem with it is the Sinister Six, they're kind of a niche, hardcore Spider-Man fans know who they are, but the average Joe on the street's not going to know who they are.
Right.
And it was like, we're going to set this up in one film. Like, you must be smoking crack.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to look. Night Watch. That was the other character they announced a movie for. And I was like, who is this? Who is this Spawn knockoff?
It kind of came to a head when Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, I've never laughed so hard at walking out of a cinema before.
Mm-hmm.
And, Disney sort of politely kind of went, so can we just like have this character back, please? And then Avi Arad, the pinnacle of genius that he is, said that, he would not support a Spider-Man Avengers film unless Spider-Man was the main character. And it's like, considering the state Sony have left this franchise in, do you think people would be willing to pay to see that?
Right. Yeah, so you definitely raise a lot of good points there. And yeah, there's not so much I can add to what both you guys have said, but as someone who also grew up with, I was first introduced to I guess I can say I was first introduced to Spider-Man through Spider-Man the Animated Series in the 90s. Also, and grew up on reading a lot of Ultimate Spider-Man. Those were actually some of the first comics in general I ever read. And so I also ended up watching Spectacular Spider-Man as well. And around that time also, throughout the 2000s, grew up on the Sam Raimi trilogy. Absolutely loved them. Number 3 definitely has a lot of issues that both you guys have raised, but there is definitely a lot of sentimental, nostalgic value in there for me. And so I can never, as disappointed as I was with how that trilogy ended, there's definitely a lot of things in there that I can always go back to and still enjoy for me. And so going into the Mark Webb movies, yeah, I was like very skeptical from the get-go when they said, oh, we're going to make this a low budget teen drama akin to Twilight and going to do some things. So we're going to go into like the inside story. We're going to tell you the story you've never heard. And it was trying to build up this mystery with Peter's parents, all this like corporate espionage, spy thriller type of material that ultimately kind of goes nowhere by the second movie. And yeah, like you, Random, I too I enjoyed the first movie for the most part. It definitely had some issues, but I thought, okay, maybe they can iron out these wrinkles with the sequel. But unfortunately, that thing turned out to be a complete mess. And so I was more than happy to hear the news that Sony was going to give up on their Spider-Man plans and then just give Spidey over to the MCU. And I'm of two minds with the MCU depiction of Spider-Man. On one hand, I think he works and makes sense within the context of the MCU as a character who grew up idolizing the Avengers and growing up wanting to be like them. On the other hand, it definitely takes away from a lot of the appeal that most people have for Spider-Man as a solo character. And so he comes off acting more like a sidekick than a fully fledged hero. On one hand, I do enjoy the idea of a young up-and-coming hero trying to escape the shadow of the heroes he himself has idolized since he was a child. But on the other hand, I do want to see him actually become said hero, which after 2 movies, I haven't actually seen him do. And to be quite honest, as much as I enjoy the characters and their and the actors portraying them, and as well as the action, I just haven't been motivated enough to actually revisit the MCU movies. No, in fact, I've only seen Homecoming and Far From Home only once each. But meanwhile, I can just like go back to the Sam Raimi trilogy just any day.
I think half the problem with the MCU Spidey, I mean, just to throw in another jokey name to Ace's pile, I refer to Homecoming as "Notice Me, Senpai" in the movie,
especially when it comes to the context of Iron Man.
Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark. Oh, Mr. That's like the most repeated line of dialogue. Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark. It's like
Stark, Mr. Stark.
That became like
I will be hated for saying this.
Yeah.
I will be hated for saying this. I'll make this real quick. I apologize to anyone listening to this in advance, but when he died in Infinity War, I fucking cheered. I was like, oh my god for that.
I had a similar scenario, except instead of me cheering, I cringed because I realized, wow, this is what Marvel thinks of their character now, that he's easily replaceable. Oh, thanks for that. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
The funny thing is, around that time, the reason why they killed the character off was because the alleged rumor was that was his final appearance. So the joke I like to say to people is he's hugging Tony Stark as hard as possible because I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. They have me planned up for an Aunt May movie. I can't do it.
Like, please take me with you, Mr. Stark.
Senpai, no!
Senpai, no!
Who am I going to rely on now?
Meanwhile, like Tobey Maguire's just leaning in, going, "Oh look, little Iron Man Jr. You gonna cry?" Now dig on this. Good old bully Maguire.
Meanwhile, I can imagine someone like just photoshopping like dancing emo Parker in the background as Iron Man dies.
You'll get your movie when you fix this damn door.
This is why I brought you two on here. Oh, man.
You'll get your Spider-Man 4 when you fix this damn franchise.
I remember like during the rumors where it's like MCU Spider-Man might be like the series might be canceled and the rights would be going 100% back to Sony. Meanwhile, there were memes of Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire just going like, "Oh yeah, first one to make it to 3 movies."
The irony.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they phone him up and say, "Oh, hey, the MCU Spider-Man's finished. You interested?" Oh boy, yeah.
And
I love Tobey Maguire.
oh, absolutely, yeah. He's
Great actor.
He's been in some stuff recently. If I remember, he was in that movie Brother, where he plays a soldier with I think Brothers. Where he plays a soldier with PTSD. He's still working. He's still doing stuff today. Very underrated. You don't hear people talk a lot about him these days. But yeah, he still is solid actor. But yeah, but during this whole entire time, while Marvel was doing the whole MCU Spidey thing, meanwhile with Sony, right, they were very focused on trying to cash in on that MCU shared universe money that other studios have been trying to replicate, such as the Monsterverse and the Dark Universe. And yeah, I agree. There is no way
the DC universe.
And yeah, of course, the DCEU. There's
your mileage may vary.
I agree that I honestly don't think Spider-Man himself can really support a cinematic universe of his own. I mean, I don't really think you could possibly say you can make a Spider-Man movie, a Scarlet Spider movie, a Black Cat movie, a Miles Morales movie, and then put them all together for a Spidey Avengers Spider-Verse movie. But it's like,
I would be willing to pay. I'd be willing to pay to see a Spider-Man 2099 movie.
You know what?
Oh,
you raise a good point. I would be interested in that. It's Spider-Man meets Blade Runner.
That would be trippy as fuck, and you know it.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
or Spider-Man Noir. How about why not a Spider-Man Noir film?
Yeah, I can
see
one of my favorites.
Hell yeah!
I mean, hey, me being
I love the fact in Shattered Dimensions they got Christopher Daniel Barnes to play that version of Spidey.
Fuck yeah!
All I could hear in the back of my head was him going, "Shocker!
You can't escape me!
I'll chase you
to the ends of the earth!"
And the Academy Award goes to...
Yeah! I love Barnes.
That was an entire cheese tray of brilliance.
Yes.
Fun fact, whenever I write my character Eric Martinez for Primal Warrior Draco Azul, I always write him with Christopher Daniel Barnes' Spider-Man's voice in mind.
You should.
Because you said that, now all I can hear him doing is driving around in Draco screaming, "Madam Web!
Mary Jane!"
And here's the funny part, what I've heard from an interview with Barnes.
Yeah.
Again, I can't confirm this, but I believe that whole take was just him outliving his scene, and they decided to keep just say
that was literally just him fucking around.
It was like apparently that was extra shit that he brought in, and they said, "Fuck it, we'll keep it."
he watches the episode, and he's like, "Oh fuck!"
Like, you know what the biggest?
Yeah.
The biggest missed opportunity was with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was to get Daniel Barnes to play Spidey alongside the guy who played Mega Man X in the PSP remake, and they're both screaming at each other.
Sigma!
Like, they are both intense.
Yeah. Oh fuck
Madam
yeah!
Web, Sigma!
Of course, this is the
everyone
guy.
else is like, "What the fuck?"
I mean, of course, this is when it comes to that the Mega Man X voice actor, this is the same guy who just episode after episode of G Gundam would constantly shout "Kyoji" at the top of his lungs.
And the shining finger.
Yes, this hand of mine is glowing red.
It's loud roar. Tell me great victory.
Take this, my love, my anger, and all my sorrow.
My sorrow. Wait, Andre. That's Tobey Maguire when he's watching the MCU movies.
Say this, my love, my anger, my sorrow, my house, my car, my wife, and my 2 kids. But I keep the pool. Pool is mine.
I guess anyways, yeah, back to the idea of Sony trying to do their own MCU.
Yeah, we're talking about Venom, remember, guys?
Yes, Venom.
Yeah, Venom.
How far are we into this recording? Oh fuck, we're half an hour all in.
Venom's just sitting in the corner going, "You think they've forgotten us? I'll tell your thoughts and everything."
Don't worry, Venom. We'll bring in extra chocolate to make up for it.
Oh, but he knows the trouble we've seen.
He's off in the corner. 1 is the loneliest number.
And then has to quote this, and then has to quote the trailer. The chocolate delivery hasn't been delivered yet.
But
Are you prepared to eat, Mrs. Chen?
No, you cannot eat Mrs. Chen. What? Nothing.
I know where you live.
I will find you, and I will eat you.
Eyes, lungs, Hershey's, so many snacks, so many blood.
But let's see. Where I lost my train of thought. Okay, yeah.
I'm loving it. Sorry, we're loving it.
I will behave. I will behave.
So, anyways, yeah.
Anyways,
Cinematic universe, don't agree with it. Sounds really stupid, but they're still insistent on doing it. I will say they have seemingly toned down on bragging about it, but then again, that's probably a result of the pandemic, kind of putting everyone's plans on pause. But for now, it looks like they're just gonna focus on Venom and his series of movies. So I'm like, good, just do that. Meanwhile, continue what you're doing with Spider-Verse as someone who absolutely adored that movie. So it's like, yeah, you're on the right track now, Sony. Just keep doing Venom and Spider-Verse. Don't fuck it up. I know you're going to, but for the love of God, just whatever you're thinking.
Keep Abbott in that insane asylum that you put him in.
just keep Avi Arad the fuck away from the directors and let them do their shit.
Just sitting in his little padded cell playing with his Spider-Man action figures. Oh, yes, Spider-Man is the most important character. That's why he has to be the star of the Avengers.
and keep the booze, keep the bottle away from Amy Pascal, all right?
Yeah. Well, it's just to put a positive message out there, looking at the failure of the Sony's Spider-Man Cinematic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just because someone else has a really good idea, don't try and copy it. Just do what you're good at.
Yeah, just
it works
do
for
your
them,
thing.
Exactly.
But it's not going to work for you. Just do your thing. Do your thing.
I know that cash cow of a cinematic franchise. It sounds great, but trust me, it ain't worth it after 10 plus years.
People will not care after 10 years. Trust us.
Yeah, it's like just because someone else has got a really cool doesn't mean you have. I mean, this is kind of an unrelated example, but I think it captures it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I remember hearing from Super Gaming Brothers one time when Resident Evil became like Gears of War and Call of Duty. The argument they made was, if I want to play Gears of War, I'll go play Gears of War, but I'm here to play Resident Evil. But in this case, like, don't be the MCU. I'm here to see Spider-Man films. Be Spider-Man, you know?
Right. And that's kind of ironic going into when it comes to Venom now. So, yeah, since we're
made it.
Yes, we made it. Hooray. And there was much
Seriously.
and there was much rejoice. Yay.
And there was much rejoicing.
And the crowd goes wild. Yay!
So, funny enough, we keep talking about just focus.
Because you did that, now I'm picturing Venom banging two coconuts together pretending he's on a horse.
At this point, why the fuck not?
What do you mean, an African or European swallow?
So
Venom and the Holy Grail, that'd be an amazing film.
So yeah, it is ironic that we are going to be that we're talking about like just have them focus on Spider-Man, and yet we're here talking about a movie series that doesn't feature Spider-Man. And so I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that we were all very skeptical on the idea of doing a Venom movie without Spider-Man, given how vital of a role Spider-Man plays in the character of Venom. So I'll let you, Ace and Random, share your thoughts on the first movie, just, prior to the movie, finally watching it, and what your thoughts are now to this day. So, Ace, take it away.
Okay, so I think I was a little bit more positive than I think you guys were when it came to that announcement, because the thing is, to go back to agree with everything you've been saying, Andres, that Spider-Man can't hold up a series on by himself, and a lot of the characters in the series are very crucial to Spider-Man, so you couldn't really do a spin-off with all of them. But Venom, though, I think was a bit of an exception because, well, as we know, he's had his own spin-off. He has his own series, his own set of villains. And there's a lot that you could definitely do with him. Again, it really depends on which incarnation we're referring to. And in this case, we're talking about the Eddie Brock incarnation, which can lead to very interesting results when it came to what we got with the film. And honestly, when I first saw the movie, I loved it. And I will still stand that for me, other than Logan, it is my favorite of the modern wave of superhero films at this point, because I felt like, one, it knew exactly what it wanted to be as basically a buddy adventure film. And it's also very loyal to the source material without it having being a straight up adaptation. Taking influence from Lethal Protector as well as Separation Anxiety, as it's very clear that that's what they were going for. And the result is a film that has a very unique feel to it that's unlike a lot of other superhero films. And yes, I can see the comparison in the fact that it is tonally all over the place in some cases. But the thing is, like, the way how I always seen it is that that's kind of how the comics were a little bit. You know, reading up on Lethal Protector recently, I've always considered it to be basically Marvel saying, hey, you know those stuff from Full Moon or what's another good example here? Like stuff like Full Moon, or even something like, say, I don't want to go this far, but maybe something like Trauma, where they basically looked at those type of movies and were like, yeah, let's try our take on it. Because the comics were very goofy, yet also very violent at times. And yeah, that's just a style that just works for at least Eddie Brock's Venom. He's not the dark and brooding, savage villain that we all think of him when it comes to Spider-Man. Sure, in the beginning he was, when Todd McFarlane was writing it, but not exactly when it came to Lethal Protector, if you ever try to go back and read those comics.
So I guess you can, since you made the Trauma and Full Moon comparison, I'm guessing you can call it trashy fun?
I'd say more like very quirky, I think. It would be very quirky. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but there's certainly an audience for it.
Okay.
And I felt like that encompasses that spirit a lot more. And hell, when you were able to give of all characters to choose from, you choose Riot, one of the blandest of the symbiotes from the comics, and you make him somewhat interesting. I don't know. I think you're doing something right.
Okay. Fair enough. And what say you, Random?
It's a bit of an interesting relationship with that film. I mean, when I first heard it was coming out, and we're doing a Venom film without Spider-Man, I said, good luck with that. And then I saw the first trailer and got a bit interested. And then I saw the trailer that had, Venom shown off. I mean, it was kind of sad that the spider symbol and the white splotches on his wrist were not there, but it's like one of those things they probably had to do because there's no connection to Spider-Man yet. I mean, I knew it was going to happen eventually, but, prequel film. It's just off what Ace said. I mean, it is possible to do a story about Venom without mentioning Spider-Man. I mean, it's kind of tricky because it's kind of like I'm one of the few people that felt, why are you doing a Joker film without Batman in it? Because it's kind of like doing a Skeletor film where He-Man's not there. It's like, I should be fighting someone. But I've mellowed to Venom over the years. Like, when I first saw it, I didn't particularly like it all that much. The second half I loved because the character moved and behaved exactly how he should have been, fully redeeming Spider-Man 3's little misadventure. But I think it's that first half that annoyed me because it is just boring. It's trying not to tread on anyone's feet here, but it's just like, I felt that first half with what was his name again? The villain?
Buddy, no.
Riot.
No. Oh yeah, right. Riot. But the villain. Carl. This is exactly why I wrote the notes. Carlton Drake.
Yeah, I kept calling him Elon Musky sort of smell because I couldn't even remember his own bloody name. It's just like he just keeps talking and talking and talking. It's like, dude, we get it. You're evil. Stop proselytizing and do something, for God's sake. It did get a little MCU-y when he was killing homeless people. It reminded me of the scene from Ant-Man when they were killing the goats.
Okay.
It's just like, we killed a homeless person. Bring in another one. The chemistry between Tom Holland and himself, because he also plays the voice of Venom, was just spot on.
Oh, you mean Tom Hardy?
Oh, what did I say?
Tom Holland.
Well, that would have been a very different Venom film.
Yes,
we are Venom. We do everything Mr. Stark says. Mr. Stark, notice us, senpai. But sorry, let me correct myself there. The relationship between Tom Hardy, thanks for getting my fucking lines right, and himself, because he also played Venom, it was just fucking spot on. I love the voice. I love the energy. I love I love that they basically turned Venom into an old bickering married couple.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And have you guys ever seen the marketing for the Venom movie in China?
No, what happened there?
Oh.
Hang on, again, this is just for you guys. You can Google this shit when you guys want it. They did this weird advertising campaign called Venom Best Boyfriend.
What?
What?
It's a weird series of images where Venom is like with this girl, like he's buying her groceries, like they're on the train together, she's holding an umbrella up for her. Like, I swear to God, this shit is real.
I see it.
I stared at it, like, what the let me just go find this real
hold on. I got it. Is it this?
Beautiful. This sounds like a work of art. I need to know about this.
Is this it? Random?
Oh wait, I've seen this.
Yes.
What the absolute fuck is this?
I think for context, Andres, you have to put this up as like a screenshot during the.
All right.
I stared at this weird marketing campaign, and I'm like, why can't all marketing campaigns be like this? My favorite one is where Venom's holding up all the bags, and he's like, "Yay, bags!
Yay, bags!"
He's so happy.
Though, I actually kind of rewind a little bit and go
You
back
wonder
to
what they'll do with Carnage.
Yeah. It's kind of funny though you mentioned though about the lack of the symbol there, James, because funny enough, it did bother me at first until I remembered that actually this wouldn't be the first time we've seen that with Venom. If you guys remember, to bring up another comic book reference here, you could say it's a bit of a reference to Ultimate Venom because in the beginning he didn't have the logo. Yeah, I'll even share with image here with the group here. Yeah, he didn't have the logo in the beginning, so I mean, I could see how for non-comic book fans this would be something weird because he doesn't have the familiar symbol. But I don't know, but I guess for comic book fans, I don't think this would be too much of an issue. I could see that being a problem, but for me, it wasn't too big of an issue.
Well, yeah, because that's why it didn't bother me so much, because I'm not one of those people that's gonna be like, the symbol's not there, ruined forever, 2 out of 10. It's just like, he's gonna get it eventually because you know it. Well, actually, it's a reference to the comics from the 70s. Start to turn into butthead a little bit at the end there. It's from the comics. Yeah, comics rule. Shut up, dumbass.
It's like Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
You mean Amy Pascal and Javier Rod, right?
That's how all their that's all their business meetings go.
We should make Spider-Man movies or something. Yeah. Spider-Man rules. Shut up, dumbass. I'll leave you to decide who's who.
Yeah.
Amy Pascal shows up at work half drunk with a shirt on her head going, I am Cornelio.
Honestly, that wouldn't be out of the, that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility, personally speaking. You go ahead.
Well, it's just just to finish off my point with Venom, it's like I didn't like the film at first. I mean, I have my problems with it, but upon reviewing it a couple more times, I've mellowed to it. I can see what they're doing. I appreciate the effort they've tried to make this character stand out without Spider-Man. It's a commendable effort, and probably from this point on, it's going to get better, and they'll try to be a bit more daring. But the one thing I will complain about it was the misleading trailer. Because all these rumors that it's going to be rated R, it's going to be for adults, and it was more sort of like jokey and comedy. But at least with the new trailer, which we'll get to in a minute, is at least they set that they put the tone out there front and center. No, this is what it's going to be. We're not misleading you.
Mm-hmm. It also doesn't. It also helps that unlike the original Venom trailer, what didn't help matters for the first Venom movie was the fact that all the special effects sequences weren't finished at all. So a lot of the scenes, the shots taken from the movie lacked any of the CGI. So we had Tom Hardy just convulsing in that what do you call that MRI machine, but there's no symbiote, or the part where Riot is swinging his axes, except there's no Riot, no axe swinging. So just people are dodging for no reason.
And they had to re-record certain scenes because the original take was just terrible.
Right.
We call them symbiotes.
Right. In fact, as I was watching the movie today, I noticed that most of the time when they said the word symbiote, it was always done like either the characters were shot from a distance, so you couldn't really see their lips all that well, or just it was said off screen, and they only said symbiote like maybe 5 times throughout the whole movie, I think.
Yeah, and it also goes into one other issue. What I've had with the film was definitely the editing, because you could definitely tell that there was some stuff that was cut out that didn't make it into the final product.
Especially. I'll get into that when I get to my thoughts. But I guess. Thank you very much, Random. So when when it came to the announcement of the Venom movie, I was very, very skeptical. I was skeptical, yet very curious as to how they were going to go about it. And seeing the trailer, and again, the fact that it looked very unfinished, very early in post-production, it didn't really set me on fire. And so I really had no interest in watching the movie at all until eventually it came out. And I was genuinely surprised that a vast majority of people, a lot of mainstream audiences, really enjoyed the movie. And got me curious, and I eventually saw it, but after it was out of theaters. And after seeing the movie for myself, I wasn't really all that blown away by it. I just thought that the movie itself, I do agree with the masses, with the popular opinion that yes, the best part of the movie was the relationship between Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote. I love their chemistry. I love. I've been a fan of Tom Hardy in both The Dark Knight Rises and Mad Max Fury Road. I thought that he did the really great role as portraying a very kind of down-to-earth everyman who's just trying to make the best out of a terrible situation. It kind of reminded me a lot of, like, say, Larry Talbot from the original Wolfman movie from, I think, 1941. Just a guy who is stuck in a really shitty, deadly situation and just making the most out of his situation. He's a victim of circumstances, essentially. He played the role very well. He did again, down on his luck everyman, just trying to do the right thing. And again, with Venom, he was very funny, very sarcastic. The fact that it was Tom Hardy doing that voice, I was shocked. I could have sworn it was someone like Keith David doing that voice. But unfortunately, everything else about the movie, I just really wasn't too keen on. And yeah, just like you, Random, I did not like a lot of the setup in the first act of the movie. I didn't care about the main villain, Drake. I didn't care about the love interest. I didn't care about the drama involving all the corrupt business stuff. And also, it just, like, the fact that it wasn't rated R, there was no blood, it kind of took a lot of the punch away from the violence. Although I will admit that a lot of the fight sequences between Venom and all those enemies, I enjoyed seeing the fight choreography and just seeing them able to incorporate the symbiote in a lot of the action sequences in admittedly very creative ways. Having seen the movie for the second time ever today, just like minutes before we got on Discord, I actually enjoyed the movie more so the second time around than I did the first time. I would still say it's not like a great movie, but it was a decent enough start for a movie and a good enough introduction to the character of Venom. One thing I also didn't like was the fact that there was, like, just Riot in general. I just thought he came off as a very generic villain, and the fact that he's just a bigger, grayer Venom, I thought was very lazy and just indicative of Hollywood's lack of creativity when it comes to just developing big bad guys. Because if you look at a lot of superhero or big budget CGI action movies, the final villain is always a big gray monster. And just
to be fair, though, and I didn't mean to cut you up, but to be fair, that's how he was in the comics, basically.
Sure, but it doesn't help matters. It doesn't help the fact that you got a big grayish, blackish monster fighting another grayish, blackish monster. So once they're all entangled, it's just like, what am I even looking at here?
Yeah.
Well, there's that more popular one that they couldn't possibly use in the first movie, because that would be silly.
Are you?
Because if they did waste a character, you could argue that if they did waste a character like that on the first go,
there would be Carnage.
Right.
Exactly.
I was going to
Terrible
joke.
pun.
I was going to joke and I was going to joke right now and say toxin.
Or hybrid. Anybody remember that guy?
Shriek.
Oh god. No, Shriek wasn't a symbiote.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait. I forgot. What was her name? There was like a female Carnage-like villain.
Scream.
Scream. Okay. Funny enough.
Shriek's something very different.
Okay, you're right. They both have names that involve yelling.
Shriek is basically Lady Gaga when the drugs wear off.
Yeah, I'm looking at images right now. I do see your point. Funny enough with Scream,
Or like Lady Gaga these days.
Funny enough.
Oh, now I understand why you wear the silly masks. Oh, okay, very good.
Funny enough with Scream, it's like if you ever ride the Universal Studios Spider-Man attraction, they have all these classic villains. Doc Ock, Hydra Man, Electro, and then Scream. And I'm like, who the fuck is that? It's like I recognize everybody, but not her. So it's like you can really tell when that attraction was made. So 20 years later, it's hilarious that this like villain that everyone has forgotten about is still there in that attraction.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, but anyways, I forgot to mention that while I did like the comedically antagonistic relationship between Venom and Eddie, and I also enjoyed the action fight choreography. I also enjoyed the grimy, dirty, sweaty look of the movie, and just how it's like, because this is meant to be like a very not so much like grim and gritty, but this is just like a very dirty, corrupt type of world that they're setting up. And I thought they made it, visually, it did the job well at trying to convey that slightly darker, maybe edgier feel for an anti-hero like Venom. But, overall, go ahead.
I feel like it was a film, like this film was buried in a time capsule for like 10 years and was meant to come out during the 2000s, and it really kind of feels that way. Like it feels like a relic from like an era before the MCU, and I kind of applaud it for that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, so I guess like going into the trailer discussion now, Ace, would you like to just share your immediate thoughts on this preview for Let There Be Carnage?
Basically, I'm very excited for it. I'm glad that Carnage was going to be the main villain for this one. You know, I'm glad they waited until the second movie to introduce him. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't go with the Maximum Carnage storyline for the adaptation. They're instead going with his initial story, but I can deal with that as long as they have some at least visual cues from that comic. Then I'm perfectly okay with that. I do think they got a great actor playing Cletus Cassidy, and I definitely like the look of Carnage in the movie. I know some people were giving a little bit of issue on the fact that his teeth are not black like they are in the comics, but you know, he's a symbiote. I can get over that. It's not too big of a deal. He looks like Carnage as I expect him to be. He definitely looks, they definitely got the psychotic nature of him down, or at least what it seems like so far. And yeah, well, I hope for the best for what this movie's going to be like.
Mm-hmm. And what are your thoughts, Random?
I mean, like I said, I'm glad they waited till the sequel to do Carnage, because trying to do Venom and Carnage's origin in the same film would have been a fucking nightmare, because, since one character is essential to the other. And for all we know, Maximum Carnage could be the third film.
Oh,
because maybe by that point, Disney and Sony would have kissed and made up, which would allow Spider-Man to sort of contribute his part to that story. Maybe replace Captain America with somebody else. But like I said, what I'm hoping for is, they say, oh, it's going to be rated R, but all I can hear in my head is the Cole Phelps doubt meme on that one. It's like, it's not going to be rated R. The last one wasn't. But all I'm saying is, if you're not going to be rated R with Let There Be Carnage, at least make Carnage as horrifying as possible. Even if you can't show it, at least let us hear it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
To be fair, I mean, they were able to get away with Venom eating heads in the first movie. So I think they could get away with some stuff here. Like, as long as it's a hard PG-13, like the last one was, then I think we could get over it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the thing with that is, like, Venom would always, like, it always cut away when he bites someone's head off. Like, maybe, like, you see one of Carnage's tendrils grab somebody, pulls them away from the camera, you hear a horrifying sound, and maybe a bit of splatter on the wall, that kind of shit.
I don't know, man, because I remember vividly in the theater when Venom, like, no cutaways, he ate the guy's head off.
Well,
even though you don't see the head, like, blood or anything.
Right.
You just saw him getting his head eaten off.
They just make sure, like, he just, like, as he's biting down, his head goes down, like, off frame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe how much me and my friends were cheering when we saw that sequence happening. And it was so much to the point where we almost got kicked out of the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
All I ask is don't kill Carnage off. You need him for sequel potential.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have a very strong feeling they're not going to do that, given how most superhero movies always, like, offs the villain by the end.
Yeah, that always annoys me, because there goes any franchise potential, because you have to start again, and you go, I don't get it. Apart from Loki, they just don't kill him off.
Yeah.
Well, they kill Loki off, they keep bringing the sod back, don't they?
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
They'll give him an entire
He's the
TV
Kenny
series.
McCormick of the MCU.
Yep. No one's ever
Oh my
really
god, they
gone.
killed Loki. No, they didn't. My god, they killed Loki. No, they didn't.
You know what? In that case, you know, if you ever want to see like Carnage or Venom dismember people, they can always pull the Ninja Turtles cartoon route and just have a bunch of robots start slice and dice.
Bunch of Doombots show up out of nowhere.
Yes.
Well, since they have the Fantastic Four now, they can do it.
Oh, actually, it's Disney that has the Fantastic Four.
Oh,
Yeah, they now.
thank God for that. Can you imagine a Sony-produced Fantastic Four movie? Oh,
Oof.
actually, no, don't picture that.
Oh, wait a minute. That already happened.
Wait, no, that was Fox, right? Didn't they do Fanforstic?
Oh, no, you're right. I'm thinking of, I was thinking initially of the older, like the older films. But no,
Oh God, that cancelled one from the 90s,
the Roger Corman one.
where the thing looked like a melted Sugar Puffs monster.
Yeah. I guess, like, to give my thoughts on the trailer itself. I definitely enjoyed it. I thought it was very solid overall. Great that they're bringing in Carnage and giving, as you said, Random. They've already established what Venom is all about, and just giving giving Carnage his time to shine. I really like.
Is that like the bootleg version you find on the market?
Yeah, I was about to say, like,
that's the Asylum version. Where
Venom versus Coonage.
Coonage.
Hey, it's a better it's a better
Coonage, at last we meet.
It's
yes. Alive.
It's honestly
Skeletor, apparently.
It's a better title than what they came up with for their Godzilla versus Kong ripoff. Do you want to hear it at random?
God.
Ape versus Monster.
Or in other words,
I don't know about you, Andres, but that sounds like an Oscar-winning nomination right there.
It's like, fuck you, you're gonna watch
Tell me we're so.
Oh man, but yeah.
Hi, Mark. Let them fight.
But I guess, like, to work off of what both you guys said, they are definitely more upfront with what the tone of this movie. Definitely playing into the sort of buddy comedy angle between Eddie and Venom. Sony seemingly realized what folks loved the most about the first movie, and they're putting it at the forefront while also setting up Cletus Cassidy. I'm really glad that they fixed his goddamn hair, because that was an awful wig.
He looked like Sideshow Bob.
Right.
Don't insult Sideshow Bob.
So yeah, he looks.
Now I'm picturing Carnage singing the HMS Pinafore.
So yeah, he looks great. He sounds great. He's wonderfully creepy and disturbing. I really enjoy Woody Harrelson. I loved him in Zombieland and War for the Planet of the Apes. So yeah, I'm definitely very interested in where they're going to go with this one. So yeah. So unfortunately, Ace has got to go now. So Ace, thank you very much for joining us here. Any final thoughts or predictions for the for Venom 2?
Okay, I'll make it very sweet and simple. Again, I hope that they keep the focus on between the chemistry between Eddie and Cletus Cassidy, which is what looks like they're doing so far, and I'm very glad for that. If you are going to throw in some references to the older comics, make sure you do it subtly. Make sure you don't try to make it like learn your lesson basically from Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2. Don't make it where it's about selling movies. Be about selling us a good story. And given what the good grounds you already made with the first movie, don't screw it up. Right. That's all I could say. And there's a lot of possibilities with the world of Venom and the characters that could come from it. Again, I could easily see like a movie maybe with Scream, or perhaps even if you want to go this far, maybe we could see the final movie being about Null. That could be kind of interesting. But from this point forward, just keep it about being about Venom and his stories, not about selling a franchise.
Very wise words, my friend. So, where can people find you?
All right, well, very simple. You can find me on Facebook. I have a writer/director's channel called Ace Marrok. There's not really much to say about that page as of yet, but I have a lot of works that are coming out of the woodwork. One, of course, you can buy my novel, which I worked with Matt Denian on, called League of Heroes Crucified, which is a sequel to his story, Kaiju and the Crime Fighter. And also, you can like that page, and that's all I got at least for the time. Oh, and also you can check out my art page, Art of Marrok, where I publish a lot of my own artwork and hope to upload some more artwork in the future.
Absolutely. And folks can look forward to a Draco Azul novel that Ace and I are currently co-writing, Primal Warrior Draco Azul, Soulless Blood.
Yes, and very apt title considering the context.
Thank you very much, Random. So, and thank you very much, Ace, for joining us, and best of luck to you. And thank you very much again for joining us.
No problem. Until then, guys, I'll see you all later, and hope to see you guys soon in the future.
Peace.
Peace.
All right, man.
Yeah, you know what he was mentioning, like not having, like hoping Sony doesn't turn this into a cinematic universe. There's like a part of me now that's like worried that the end of this movie is just going to be, remember how like BVS had like all this like teasers for Justice League by showing Wonder Woman and Cyborg and Flash and Aquaman.
Oh god!
They're going to be like,
it's coming.
Yeah, they're going to be like, here's a trailer for the Toxin movie and the Carnage solo movie and this symbiote
the Aunt May movie.
The Aunt May movie. Oh, I think they were genuinely wanting to make an Aunt May movie, like Aunt May the younger years, like that comic.
This summer, she worries about Peter. Aunt May,
Peter,
starring Melissa McCarthy as Aunt May. Witness this 75-year-old woman who is fat falls down a lot in theaters in November.
Help, Spider-Man! I've fallen and I can't get up.
I have fallen, and I choose not to get up.
I understood that reference.
The best thing, Willem Dafoe is Aunt May. Peter, I've fallen over.
Honestly,
if anyone was going to play Freddy Krueger, it should have been Willem Dafoe.
I was actually going to say, in another universe, I would love to have seen Willem Dafoe as Carnage.
He would have enjoyed that far too much. He just shows up on set, painted red, going, "Let's do this shit."
Right.
Mr. Dafoe, put your pants back on.
You know how much I've sacrificed?
You're not going to be in the film. Out am I!
He blows up the entire set. Destroys the negatives of the film.
See, when he's against you, he's Willem Dafoe, but when he likes you, he's Willem the friend.
Ah!
I love Willem Dafoe.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I still need to see that movie he was in.
Best Green Goblin ever.
Yes. I gotta see that movie. I think it was called The Lighthouse he was in.
My brother showed me that film where he's like a vampire hunter, and he is fucking insane in that.
Oh, right. He did do a movie. How crazy is it that he was in a vampire movie and he was not an actual vampire?
Yeah.
We're the folks with the crossbows.
Right. Let's see. So one thing I just I found out while I was researching Venom 2 was that this movie was being directed by Andy Serkis. Are you familiar with who he is?
Seriously, Andy Serkis?
Yes.
Smeagol?
Yeah, Smeagol himself.
He wants the precious. He was also, I think he was in Age of Ultron as well.
Oh, okay, cool. I also know that he also
He was,
yes.
He was Dr. Claw. No, not Dr. Claw. That's a very different franchise.
He was the Black Panther villain.
That's right, yeah.
Or he was the villain who was
Selfish.
Yeah. He also portrayed King Kong in the 2005 Peter Jackson remake. And
really?
Yeah. He played both Lumpy the cook, and he did the motion capture work for King Kong himself.
Well, the boy likes his work.
Yeah. He is pretty much, when it comes to like motion capture, there's no one better than Andy Serkis. He was also Caesar from the recent Planet of the Apes trilogy.
He's kind of like the Frank Welker of motion capture.
Yeah, pretty much so. And so I was honestly surprised to find that he's a director all of a sudden, but then I realized he did do that one Jungle Book movie called Mowgli that was, I think it was released exclusively to Netflix. I never saw it, but I believe your brother saw it and spoke highly about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
The only other movie he's directed was a movie called Breathe, which apparently was a biological drama about a real-life man who, in the 30s or 40s, was suffered from polio, was paralyzed from the neck down at the age of 28, and had to breathe through a machine. So, between the two movies that Andy Serkis has directed, one being a drama about a paralyzed man, the other being The Jungle Book, it's really surprising for him to all of a sudden take on this superhero franchise movie.
But if you're gonna make a film about a schizophrenic, monster, who better to get than bloody Andy Serkis?
I guess so, yeah. So, I suppose.
I should probably rephrase that. Not really schizophrenic, a character who essentially is talking to himself, and then you get Andy Serkis do that shit.
Right. So, yeah.
So I was watching his trailer breakdown from like the IGN video they put up, and you can tell he's really passionate and giving everything a lot of thought, which I thought was great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, who exactly was?
He also
was
acknowledges
talking?
There's going to be references to Spider-Man in the end. I mean, the fact you see the Daily Bugle reference in the trailer was kind of was an eyebrow raiser. I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, who was speaking in that promo video you saw?
Oh, Andy Serkis himself actually did a trailer breakdown of basically what he's doing with the film. And when you listen to him talk, it's like he's really passionate about it. He knows what he wants to do, and I think in terms of director, like this film's going to at least be good because at least Andy Serkis knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. Right. It definitely makes sense. I mean, he is someone.
He's got fucking Avi Arad on his shoulder saying, "Oh, make sure you put this in here, that in there."
Like he to quote a line from Caesar, he just looks at Avi Arad's suggestion. He goes, "No."
Because that was Mark Webb's problem. Like he was basically like Avi Arad grabbed Mark Webb and said, "You're going to be my wife."
Oh yeah, definitely. This is like this has just been a trend in Hollywood recently, where they get a bunch of like people from the indie film scene, people with like very little power, like that Hollywood star power, like say Spielberg or Quentin Tarantino. Like these are directors who are big enough to call the shots. But when you have studio heads that pick up these indie directors, and they're gonna be like, "We're gonna turn you into a star, kiddo, as long as you do everything we say."
Yeah. Do as we say, see? All the fat lady gets it. You catch my drift, see? Suddenly he went all 1940s.
Yeah. We're gonna turn you a star, kiddo.
We're making a movie, see?
Your name is gonna be up in lights, see? This is my Hollywood producer man voice. You'll be an
armless, legless, faceless thing, won't you? If you mess with me, kid, you'll be an armless, legless, faceless thing rolling down the street like a turd in the wind, see?
And then the director Ruben Fleischer was like, "Oh yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna write that down."
Suddenly that voice turned into Inspector Gadget for some reason.
All right, fellas, let's put together a film. Go, Gadget, camera set. So I'm looking at I was curious.
Don't worry, Chief. I'm always on duty.
Right now, I was looking at the director from the first movie. I think it was Ruben Fleischer. And from what I could tell, Ruben Fleischer hasn't actually done a whole lot of movie work. Most of his credits go to being an executive producer, and as well for mostly television projects. So I'm thinking, how did this guy get to do movies? But then looking down here, I'm looking. He did Venom. He apparently did Zombieland 2, Gangster Squad. I guess he did the first Zombieland movie. I guess that's how he was able to get a hold of Woody Harrelson. But yeah, he doesn't have a whole lot of noticeable credits to his name. He's just mostly just like I think he's got more producer credits, or just as many producer credits as he does director credits. So yeah, I feel like Ruben Fleischer might be one of those like yes man type of directors. So from what you said about Andy Serkis, he seems to be a more passionate director, and so it's very possible, despite this being his third film as a director, I am hopeful that Andy Serkis could bring more to the table than the first director did.
It's probably because that they couldn't afford any big directors with the first film, but because Venom was pardon the pun, a monster hit, they can actually afford somebody who, no disrespect to the first director, that has more of an idea of what this should be.
Right.
Because you can tell with the first Venom film that there was a lot of ideas and direction they wanted to go in. Like the first trailer kind of hinted at it, but they were kind of restricted by what they had, the budget, and because Avi Arad can't keep his fucking mouth shut. I'm gonna stop picking on him, I swear to God.
He's like, no, he's
had it. I think Avi Arad cares.
He's had it coming for 20 years.
Avi Arad calls up Amy Pascal. Avi Arad. No, that's his name. Let me try that again. Like Avi Arad calls up Amy Pascal. Amy, Random's making fun of me again. And she's like, no, fucking no, you put him on a shirt. There we go.
But give him a cinematic universe.
Yeah, Avi Arad, the movie, starring Seth Rogen as Amy Pascal.
Let's see. I guess
God, that would fit too well.
I guess like one the other note I mentioned. Previously you mentioned the Daily Bugle being referenced, and I could have sworn that on Google or IMDb I saw like a credit for a certain actor, Spider-Man actor that you and I may know of, but I don't want to really spoil it for anybody here. If this actor is involved, I'd be like, It's
kind of obvious they've worked out a deal. I mean, I think it's safe to say that Venom will not be in the next Avengers film, and he will not be showing up in Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man, You're Drunk. But I think the fact is they're allowed to use like Daily Bugle. There's a shot in the trailer where someone is actually squashing a spider with their fist. Andy Serkis claimed that was on purpose. Because, I mean, it all goes back to the very first Avengers film where they tried to negotiate with Sony just to have the Oscorp building as part of the New York skyline, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Just to get a building featured in a film. That shit.
Right.
Now, I don't know how much truth there is to that, so, make of that what you will, listeners, but I remember reading somewhere that Disney tried to negotiate with Sony just to have the Oscorp building in the New York skyline of Avengers.
Right. And I guess
the fact that you see the Daily Bugle newspaper being referenced in this Venom, it shows me either A, they have a stronger working relationship now, or B, it's just like Disney's like, oh, I can't do a Mickey Mouse voice, but it's like, okay, we've done this for you, now what are you going to do for us? And I sort of wonder, is a version of Venom going to show up in Spider-Man 3, or is this character going to be involved in some kind of project down the road?
Yeah, that is the case. And so, like, how would you feel if it turns out this Venom series is going to end up featuring the MCU Spidey in some shape or form?
I want to say before I get started, I do like Tom Holland. I think he's a good actor. I think he's got a lot of energy, and he does make a good younger Spider-Man, even though I still prefer Tobey Maguire. My only problem with Tom Holland, and it's the same reason why I defend Hayden Christensen from the Star Wars prequels, is because he didn't write the script. George Lucas wrote that shit.
Oh, he's making fun of me again.
Shut up, George. It's just, but the thing is, like, my initial problem with MCU Spider-Man is like Civil War. That introduction for Spidey, perfect. Love the energy, love the attitude. They nailed what Spidey should have been about. But the problem with it is, we made the joke earlier, but essentially MCU Spider-Man is basically Iron Man's boy wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Holy rusted metal, Iron Man! But it's like he basically was like a simpering sycophant towards Tony Stark, and it got annoying. But when I heard that, when Tony Stark finally died, maybe they'll just move on from Iron Man, and then Far From Home is just, Senpai is dead now, how can I move on? And I was like, but with Venom, it's like, I could see a good connection there, but it's like, I feel like I want to see how Venom 2 does first, because if the character is expanded upon, they get the right tone down, they don't spend like half a film just getting to the point, then fantastic. And there is potential there, but I do wonder, like, if the third Spider-Man film is Tom's last film, and then maybe if Venom and Spidey do cross paths, will it be Tom Hardy and somebody else?
Right.
That's the big sort of question.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And I do see what your point there, and it's very possible that if the MCU Spidey is involved in a potential Venom 3 or a, let's say, Spidey versus Venom movie, it would be interesting to see, like, maybe they'll make an agreement where they can have the same character from that continuity, but have him carry none of the baggage. So he won't be making any references to Happy Hogan or Iron Man or War Machine. And that actually might be refreshing for this version of Spider-Man, to actually have him be divorced from all that Iron Man baggage and actually have him be out on his own as a proper superhero, which I'd be very curious and interested to see.
Of course, what they could do, they could have do what Disney and Fox were doing for a while with having two Quicksilvers, where you had the MCU Quicksilver and you had the Fox Quicksilver, although everyone prefers the Fox one. But it's like, I would not be against the idea of two different Spider-Men. You have the MCU Spider-Man that has no connection to Venom, but then Sony has their own Spider-Man. Obviously, if need be, they could use the PS4 costume to help separate the two.
Yeah,
people
could do that.
There is a difference.
Now,
if people say, people say that's too confusing. We live in an era where there were two Quicksilvers for a brief period.
True.
You're telling me that people would get confused by two Spider-Men.
I guess
technically three now if you consider Miles Morales, but
Right. I guess, like, to play devil's advocate, Quicksilver was a minor character that not a lot of mainstream audiences knew about. Meanwhile, Spider-Man is a much more recognizable character, so maybe that is more than likely to confuse people.
But in response to that, I would say that, well, technically at the moment, we already have two different Spider-Men. You have the MCU Spidey, and you have the one that showed up in the Spider-Verse.
True.
So technically, it's already sort of in place, and in a way, you've got Ben Affleck and you've got Will Arnett playing Batman right now. So it's what's his name now, isn't it?
It's I know
Twilight.
Robert Pattinson.
I apologize, Mr. Patterson. I know you hate that film, but it was the first thing that comes to mind. Please don't hurt. Please don't. Find me.
Did you see the Batman trailer? He'll kick your fucking ass for sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be me. Like, I'll be walking down the street, he just shows up in the costume. I say, "Who the hell are you?" He just pins me to the floor and starts repeatedly, tailing me to death.
Just bashing your face like a mixed martial arts master.
People are just watching, going, "Fuck yeah, dude, kick his ass!" How dare he bring up Twilight? But then he pulls the mask off and the Skeletor. I'm vengeance.
Will Arnett did technically play Batman, a version of Batman.
I think he's been Batman 3 times now, like the 2 Lego films and Lego Batman.
Right, yeah. Reminds me of this one sketch. I think it was like a sketch from like the Jimmy Fallon show, where it was like what was it? It was like 2 Batman that were arguing with Batman actors who were arguing with each other, and then Will Arnett shows up. It's like, I'm Batman too. Lego Batman, but everyone says nobody cares about Lego Batman. Yeah, but your kids do. And before he walks off,
check out my 9 abs. I love that film.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Now here's an idea. So you mentioned before like Spider-Verse, and the Spider-Verse I guess does have the excuse of it being an animated Spider-Man, so no one's going to confuse an animated version from a live action version. But here's the thing, here's an idea. What if they're going to bring in an original Spider-Man into the Venom series to distinguish itself from the MCU version, akin to the two Quicksilvers, what if they were to introduce a Miles Morales Spider-Man instead of a Peter Parker Spider-Man? How would you feel about that?
I mean, I'd be perfectly fine with that, because we already have we've had like 3 established Peter Parker Spider-Mans. I mean, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I love the character of Miles Morales. My only critique is the fact they just sort of slap the Spider-Man name on there to guarantee the hit. That's kind of how I've always felt. I mean, like I said, love the character, brilliant origin story. Costume is fantastic. It does remind me a little bit of Terry McGinnis's Batsuit, but I love Terry McGinnis anyway. So
yeah.
And to be fair, like, I mean, I'm not against the idea of this, but it's kind of like, War Machine is not called Black Iron Man. He's called War Machine.
Yeah.
And I feel like people just go, "Oh, it's Miles Morales, the Black Spider-Man." It's like, no, great a miscarriage of justice to a character that good. You know what I mean?
Oh, very true. Yeah. I mean, I guess if this was like, if they made him a legit legacy hero. Like, they did try to make him a legacy hero in the Ultimate Universe, but instead, in the mainstream 616 main comic universe, he's just the other Spider-Man. Like you said, he's the Black Spider-Man.
Cool Spider-Man. I mean, the argument you can make with, like, Flash and Green Lantern is, like, because it's usually like one person in charge at the time. I mean,
yes.
Do correct me if I'm wrong, fellow DC Comics listeners out there. But it's like, there's Barry Allen, but there's Wally West. But usually, I think Wally West became the Flash when Barry died.
Right.
There's a gap.
Yeah. And then, like, it
was fine because with the Ultimate Universe, that version of Peter Parker died, and then Miles Morales became the Ultimate Spider-Man, and that was perfectly great because it was a brand new continuity from new readers. It encourages people to read, which is kind of the point. But when you slap them both in the same universe, and for a while Miguel O'Hara was there as well, so you had 3 people running around being called Spider-Man. It's just like, do you not see how that's confusing?
Right. Yeah. Next thing you know, there's gonna be like
Spider-Gwen, which made.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And then you had Spider-Gwen running around, so I made the joke saying it was the Mighty Morphin Spider-Man.
Meanwhile, it's like, where's
enough about that?
Yeah.
Enough about that Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon.
Right.
What it boiled down to, like 5. You had like 5 different versions. Spider-Man. You had Miguel O'Hara. No, Miles. Sorry, you had Peter, Miles, the clone.
Yeah, the other half Latino Spider-Man.
Yeah, seriously, I made it. I superimposed all their masks on the Ranger outfits, and it's just so uncanny that it's just.
Oh yeah, and
we're getting back to the original question.
Yes, yeah.
That's the original question, though. Yeah. I would be perfectly okay and down with the idea that Sony produced live-action Miles Morales films while Disney did Peter Parker. So, like, if you're not a fan of Miles, you've got the Disney version with Peter. If you don't like the idea of Peter and feel like it's been done to death, then you have this other, like, that way you have options. Options are always good.
Absolutely, yeah. And, it's very possible that Into the Spider-Verse was sort of like the testing grounds to see how people would react to Miles Morales. And given the success of Spider-Verse, it's very possible that the producers will look at that success and say, maybe there is something to this Miles Morales character.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe it will open the door to get the fucking Batman Beyond movie made someday.
Here's hoping. One last question I had for you.
I mean, Michael Keaton is the right age for it now, so,
Yeah, everyone's been saying that. Yeah, I mean, apparently Michael Keaton apparently Michael Keaton is coming back to play Batman in the upcoming Flashpoint movie.
Sweet. And the sad thing is, like, Andrew Garfield would have made the best Terry McGinnis ever.
I could see that, honestly. Yeah.
What he's got to do is just dye his hair a little black, gel it up at the front. Perfect. He had the right. I mean, that was the thing about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Like, the attitude, the rudeness, that would have been perfect for Terry McGinnis. Whereas, and just give him the Tom Holland suit with the Andrew Garfield BS from the Mark Webb films. Terry McGinnis. There you go.
And I guess the very last question I had, this is one thing I noticed, and that was when they were introducing Cletus Cassidy, he was he was in this jail called Ravencroft, and the name itself was familiar. So was this a name from was this like Ravencroft location a place from the comics?
It's, I mean, yeah, because it was also featured in Carnage's debut from the '90s cartoon. It's essentially Marvel's Arkham Asylum.
Okay, that's what I was about to ask.
It's a mental institution. Yeah, it's how Eddie and Cletus met, where the Venom symbiote reproduced Carnage, but they were kind of in the cell next to each other. If you get what you're saying. Venom broke out, a piece of Venom remained behind, and that's how it became bonded to Cletus. So I like the fact they're referencing, and they've also, it wouldn't be the first time they referenced Ravencroft, because Ravencroft first showed up in Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Dr. Kafka. Although the irony is, in the '90s cartoon, Dr. Kafka even was a woman, whereas this one is, to quote honest CinemaSins, "she's stereotypical German scientist, yeah."
Awesome then. So I guess this is much like the Daily Bugle. This is more Spidey comic lore seeping into the sequel.
If I was to guess, I feel like the fact that Ravencroft's here, the Daily Bugle's being referenced, basically being front and center, whereas like they didn't show this sort of stuff in the Amazing trailers. I feel like there's more leeway where Disney have allowed Sony to do certain things, and in turn, like, it feels like a more stable relationship, because there was a point when the deal looked like it was falling apart. Where it looked like they were not going to renegotiate the terms. Spider-Man would be done after Far From Home, although I'm sure Ace would be happy if it was done.
Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good again.
Since he's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that Mouse and that blooming Crash Bandicoot are messing about with my contract again. But
yeah,
it does feel like, maybe they asked for more money, maybe they asked for equal footing, but I feel like the fact they're openly referencing the Daily Bugle, in a trailer of all things, says that maybe there's a better working relationship, and maybe down the line at some point, Spider-Man might have a post-credit scene in the 7th Venom movie. At that point, will be a nuclear holocaust, and no one will care.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, I do want to see. In an ideal world, I would love to see a Venom versus Spider-Man film with Tom Holland and Tom Hardy. But then again, I also want to see a Hulk versus Wolverine movie, but that's not going to happen now, is it?
We'll see, man. Never say never.
I often joke that they'll drive up to Hugh Jackman's house with 17 dump trucks full of money. And Mouse is like, "You're going to put the tights back on, goddammit."
Wait, he's like, "I have tights this time?"
I'm actually going to wear the outfit? Yeah.
He's like, "Finally, after it's been 20
the
years.
Best thing is, it's just Ryan Reynolds. It's Ryan Reynolds actually wearing the outfit. Like, oh, Hugh, have I got a job for you?
That'd be hilarious. And I guess the last thing to talk about with the trailer would be Carnage himself. The very little bit we see of him.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm glad they didn't just, put him on full display, like, "Hey, look at me," because it kind of eliminates the surprise. I mean, I did have, for example, Godzilla spoiled for me by an act by chance by scrolling on YouTube one evening. I didn't even know he was going to be in Godzilla vs. Kong. So I feel like the fact they give you such tiny little looks doesn't sort of ruin the whole experience, because I feel like what they've shown in that brief 2-second clip is not going to prepare you for what he finally looks like. Because I can't wait to see him in full detail and what he can do, how the voice is going to set. Just to see the emotion is going to be amazing.
Yeah. He's red, so they got one thing right at least.
It's hard to see because of the lighting. Like, you can't tell if he's got like the black markings up and down his body or across his face, but maybe like we'll get to see it a lot better. Maybe. Sadly, they're going to put him in full detail in the next trailer. But
right.
What they do show him, I'm liking what I'm seeing. He's got the tendrils, he has the insanity and the chaos on display, and it's just, don't fuck this up. It's his first time out the gate, don't screw this up.
Right. And we do, the only other instance of the Carnage design we've gotten is through the official poster itself, at least what I think is the official poster, where it's just like from the point of view of inside Carnage's mouth, as Venom is reaching out to the viewer, And it's there that we can clearly see that Carnage, unfortunately for, most hardcore of comic fans, his teeth are ivory white as opposed to being the classic black or red, depending on the artist.
It's a creative, artistic license, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That is definitely very true. Unlike,
it's kind of like how with the Sam Raimi suit, where the webbing was sort of like metallic and shiny, whereas in the comics it's kind of all just like stitchwork.
Right, that is true. For the most part, nothing's ever going to be like one-to-one comic accuracy. Even with like as comic accurate as with the designs as the MCU have gotten, there's always going to be small changes here and there.
I think the only one that's almost like a one-to-one recreation would be the Iron Man suit from the very first film, but I think I'm a nerd, so I noticed this shit where the helmet doesn't quite match up with how the Extremis suit looks, but for the most part, it's a good recreation. Oh
yeah, definitely. And when it comes to adaptations, these sorts of things are very natural, as it's not just like one artist creating one design. This is like an entire process where a bunch of artists make a bunch of designs, and then a bunch of producers and creators come in. You have a lot of cooks in the kitchen, all deciding on what's the best possible, quote unquote, best version that would be acceptable for a mainstream audience.
That makes sense.
Although I do gotta give props, as someone who has recently watched both WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, Marvel seems to be starting to be more open with making even more comic accurate costumes. I'm not sure if you've seen Falcon in his new Captain America suit, but it's like just like the one from the comics. Same goes for
I haven't had a chance to look at it after I'll probably look at it a bit, but I don't have Disney Plus, so I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch stuff. But I'm glad that they are starting to make stuff more correct, because it's kind of like the whole black spandex leathery suit thing from the X-Men films. Like, let's not go back to that, please. I mean,
no. I think with stuff like this,
I'm sure if he's listening, your friend would. It's the one thing I'll agree with your friend on. Those costumes are bad.
If we get stuff like this here that I just sharing with you, I think we are done with that era of black leather costumes.
Yeah, I'm actually, for anyone listening, I'm actually looking at this image for the first time. Yeah, that looks fucking great. Actually, I like it. Very, very on point, very in detail. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, in that case, let me just show you Scarlet Witch's new comic accurate MCU costume. Let's see.
Let's have a look. What if it's gonna be the one I think it is?
Let's see.
If it is what I think it is, that'd be hilarious. Got the She-Ra sort of like tiara thing on her head.
Yep. Let's see.
Wait, really?
Yeah, she's got the tiara now.
They got her to put the fucking tiara on.
It's not the best image I could find, but it's there.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
that's actually kind of cool, actually.
And now she officially goes by the name Scarlet Witch.
It's probably because the deal with Fox has been finalized, so they can start using the names properly.
That is very true, possibly, yeah. And this is not a screenshot of it, but this is like an official figure, real-looking style figure of the WandaVision costume.
That does look kind of cool, although she does kind of like a Power Ranger villain like that.
Okay, I can see that.
Reminds me of the one from Lightspeed Rescue.
Let's see, Lightspeed Rescue.
The Asian lady.
Okay, I'm going. Yeah.
She's the Asian lady with horn on her head, the white and black outfit.
Yes, okay, now I remember her, yeah.
I can't remember her. I'm terrible with names, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay, I'm in the same boat as well, man. But yeah, going back to the Carnage design, I do definitely see it looks like Carnage for the most part. He's red. He's like a slimmer version of Venom. He's got all the crazy tendrils. I hope that he'll be able to make bladed weapons like Riot did in the first movie, because that was always kind of Carnage's thing.
Carnage invented that shit, so
yeah, exactly. So I do wonder how Carnage comes into being. I know, like in the first movie, they established that they had a bunch of symbiotes, but I think they only mentioned like 3 symbiotes. They show like that yellow one that attached to the rabbit, but we never knew what happened to it. I guess it'll be interesting to see.
If anything, it's probably going to be. If anything, it's probably going to be the origin from the comics, where like Venom actually reproduces Carnage from itself.
Yeah, and I guess
the fact that the fact that he and Eddie, the fact that Eddie and Cletus keep meeting up in the jail cell to talk, like maybe like Venom leaves a piece of itself behind, and then that's how it finds Cletus.
Yeah, that is very possible. They do establish that Eddie, and despite Eddie not being a criminal or an instituted or like not being an imprisoned criminal in this series, it's going to be interesting to see how he and Cletus know each other, given that in Cletus's dialogue he seems to have quite a history with Eddie. Maybe it's very possible that him being a reporter has interviewed him on several occasions.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'm hoping for with this film, like the one thing I want is the one cool reference in the comics I hope they include is like Eddie stumbles on a pile of Carnage's victims, and in their blood he's written Carnage rules on the wall.
If they're not
be cool, actually.
Oh yeah, if they're not going to show any bloodshed, having like some sort of blood represented would be nice.
Yeah.
And what was the last thing I was going to mention? Oh, okay. The last thing I wanted to say about the Venom design itself was that, given the yellow, it's probably just the lighting behind him that's doing all the work. But given that it's mostly red with this sort of yellow highlight, it does gives me a lot of vibes to Ultimate Carnage, because that one, rather than being primarily red and black, it was mostly red and yellow. And I like that design, so if they ever take some inspiration from there, that'd be cool.
I get what you mean, but it's got the lighting highlights and shit.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like that's everything I have to say about the trailer itself and any sort of hopes and wishes and predictions I have for the movie and the Venom series going forward. Any last notes that you have that you'd like to share, Random?
Okay. Can this movie please be good?
I think that's what we're all hoping for at this point.
Yeah, it's like this is the character's first big, trial out the gate. He hasn't been in a film before. Like, don't make it like Spider-Man 3. Just hit the ground running, please. I mean, but all I ask is like, at least if you are going to keep Carnage around, at least do something with him. Don't just have him be another Carlton Drake where he just stands around and talks and just does nothing until the third act. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah.
Above all else, be insane, be crazy, but just surprise me is all I want at this point.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we will get just that. When is this movie coming out again? Let's see, at least
I'll quickly look it up. Hang on.
Okay, thank you very much. I know
I'll quickly look it up.
I'm most likely not going to see this movie until like months after the fact, because Japan always is always the last country to get these movies. But that's
one of this. Well, in terms of release in the UK, it's out in September, but I think in America it's probably going to be out before that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the US release says. Oh, hang on. Cardinal Sin, going to Wikipedia. Let's have a quick look.
Yeah.
Bear with me a moment.
Sure thing. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Sorry. I found it on Wikipedia as well. September 24th.
Oh, beat me to it.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so just
awesome stuff.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of May right now, so yeah, June, July, August. Yeah, about 4 months. So yeah, a quarter not quarter, a third of a year from now, folks will be able to check out Venom: Let There Be Carnage worldwide. And yeah, so when the movie eventually comes out and we all get a chance to see it, I will be sure to put out sure to get the gang back together and try and see if we can put out a review and share our thoughts on Venom 2. So I am definitely looking forward to that.
Awesome stuff.
Oh, most certainly, yeah, indeed. So I guess this sort of concludes our trailer discussion on the trailer for Venom: Let There Be Carnage. As mentioned before,
and lots of banter before that,
and lots of banter, and this is less of a trailer discussion and just a Spider-Man discussion in general. Yeah. So if you enjoyed it, please
special thanks to our friend George Lucas.
Yes, our friend George Lucas. Carnage is the key to all this. He's a more violent character than before.
It's like poetry. It rhymes. It's symmetry.
Hopefully it'll work out.
Even computers.
And so I do want to give a big thanks to Ace for joining us for the majority of this discussion, and an equally massive thanks to you, Random. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and not only that, just being the person who sparked this, the idea, who gave the idea of having this discussion on the trailer. I had a blast just talking endlessly about Spider-Man with you and Ace.
Yeah.
And I'd love to do this again in the near future, whether it be Spider-Man or
definitely.
anything else. So
Sweet.
to wrap things up, where can people find you?
Okay, I do have a Facebook, but I'm not on it that much. I do Sprite comics, I do commissions, I do reviews. I've just finishing up the last details of my Resident Evil 8 review, which should be fun. You can find me on DA at randomdc3. Yeah, I'm also working on a new story series called Chronicles of the Abyss with my new character Rhiannon, but it's going to be a while before that's finished because I got some side stuff on the go. But yeah, you can find the Facebook page at TheRandomDC. It's all one word, and that's about it, really. Yeah.
Awesome, and I'll be sure to include both your links and Ace's in the description of the video below for folks to follow both your guys' body of work. So again, it's been an
we're also
yes, go ahead.
We're also working on a crossover between Draco and the Abyss at some point, but that's still in the works. But stay tuned.
You heard it here first, folks. And and by the way, we can. I would also like to give the chance, if that's okay, to also plug. I hope I'm pronouncing her online name right. Dianis.
That's right. Yeah. The first one.
Dianis. So you can follow Dianis, who is a very close personal friend of ours, over on Twitter, on Instagram, and Discord. So I'll also be sure to include her links in the description of this video as well. I recently uploaded artwork that I commissioned from her of the entire cast of Primal Warrior Draco Azul, which you can follow on the Facebook page Primal Warrior Draco Azul, as well as my Instagram page, which is just Kaiju Noir. So, and yeah, you can follow me there. And you can also check out my comics and my anthology book over on Amazon, both in physical and digital formats. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure being able to do this with you and Ace, and I'm looking forward to more collaborations down the line. So thank you very much, Spider Friends, for joining us today. And until next time, I have been Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir. He has been Random. That other guy was Ace. And until next time, true believers. Until next time, true believers. Excelsior!
That's right.
Enough said.